Hello, everybody. It's working. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, and thank you all very much for joining us at the Paris Peace Forum this year. As you know, this year is all about new coalitions for peace, people, and the planet, continuation of our mission to reinvent diplomacy in a changing world. We're thrilled to be hosted by three institutions this year at the Palais de Chaillot: the Cité de l'Architecture et du Patrimoine, which manages the Parvis, the outdoor space; the Musée de l'Homme, which has hosted stages A, B, and C, and Roundtable 3; and the Musée de la Marine, which was home to Stage D and Roundtables 1 and 2, which is where we are right now. Two of these august institutions are represented here today, with Aurélie Clément Ruiz, the director of the Musée de l'Homme, and Violaine Bugeaud, Director of Public Relations and Protocol at the Musée de la Marine. We're also very happy this year to have hosted the high-level international conference on information integrity and independent media, co-organized with IFPIM and FID. We're lucky to have Sir Mark Thompson with us, who is IFPIM's co-chair and also chairman, CEO, and editor-in-chief of CNN Worldwide. And finally, of course, our own founder and director general, Justin Weiss. I'll let Justin open, followed by Mark Thompson, and then Aurélie and Violaine, who will each share a few initial thoughts, and then there'll be about half an hour at the end for your questions. Obviously, you're welcome to speak in either English and French, and there are headsets, so if you've picked up a headset within the site for other sessions, you are welcome to listen to either audio track. So I will hand over to Justin. Vas-y, Justin.
Thank you, Evan. I think I'll keep going in English, if only for Mark and Nishant. It will be probably easier, and sorry for the francophones among you, but it probably be easier, and I won't be very long. I just wanted to say that for 2 days we sat at the bedside of a planet that is suffering, of a peace that is often disappearing, and of people who need better governance. And so that's what we try to do, whether with the anniversary of the 10-year anniversary of the Paris Climate Agreement, not by celebrating it, but obviously by trying to focus on the most effective ways to make it a reality. We know that we will be overshooting. Actually, we are in the process of overshooting the best goal we had, which was 1.5. Let's try not to overshoot the 2-degree objective of Paris. And for that, I think we made good progress on coal, and perhaps more importantly on methane. As we know, methane is even worse than CO2 for climate. And even though there was not one big breakthrough that you could announce, there was very useful discussions either in the panel, in the roundtable yesterday morning, but also on the sidelines of this, preparing for COP30 in Belém just 2 weeks from now. Also a panel on nature-based solutions, and of course the very interesting point of view of the presidents of COP that have been gathering several times, mandated or as requested by the Brazilian presidency of COP. So we had both Laurent Fabius, COP21, and André Correa do Lago, COP30, and a couple of them in between, COP24, COP22 actually, and COP29 as well. And that's interesting because they are the ones who actually provided the view from the inside. And then a couple of other issues on the planet. I won't mention all of them, but we've had a couple of important discussions on critical minerals. There's actually one, I think, finishing next door. I was saying also the new coalitions for peace, people, and the planet. I started with planet, but we also focused on peace. And here also, we just had a Israeli-Palestinian, or actually a civil society, I should say, panel, that roundtable that ended. You know that we've worked on that issue quite a bit this year, convening 150 Palestinians from civil society and 150 Israelis together on June 13 in support of the two-state solution. whatever the exact arrangement is, the idea is to try and accompany the ceasefire that was reached recently by a political push in favor of a more lasting peace. And that's the prize. And I'm ready to go campaign for Mr. Trump's Nobel Peace Prize if he tackles that problem than just the ceasefire. Ceasefire was great news. It was fantastic. It was the end of needless suffering. But of course, the big prize is the political solution to that. And what we've done, whether it was yesterday with former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert and former Palestinian Foreign Minister Al-Kidwa, or today with the panel we had, the roundtable we had in this very room with the Carter Center on Palestinian politics, or the civil society panel that we had, trying to push that and make sure that the last points of the Trump plan, 15 to 20, the international force, the end of the occupation of Gaza, and obviously the road to a two-state solution is reached. But as you know, we also have actually going now, or a bit later this afternoon, the conference on the Great Lakes region, part of which is in another location in Paris, the part on humanitarian issues, and part of it is here on regional integration. We also had a panel on the Balkans on 30 years after the Dayton-Paris Agreement, and obviously yesterday on Ukraine, several sessions devoted to Ukraine and European policies, in particular vis-à-vis Ukraine, since Europe will have to share more and more of the burden. Lastly, people, I will leave the floor to Mark on the what was probably the main course of that meal in terms of global governance, which was the conference on information integrity. As you know, that's a topic that we've tackled since the very beginning of the forum, since 2018, with the Forum on Information and Democracy. And I remember at the time it was Macky Sall, it was Justin Trudeau, it was President Macron, it was and a couple of others from Africa, Latin America, Asia, and Europe gathering, and we've kept that both with Reporters Without Borders and 3 years ago with IFPI. But I'll let Mark take over on that. I would simply end with a word on tech. Whether it's AI for development, the panel that just ended, as you know, we held, and the Paris Peace Forum contributed greatly to the, I think, to the success of the AI Summit earlier this year in February, and in particular with an angle that is dearer to our heart, which is the AI seen from the Global South and for the Global South. I don't like the expression Global South, but we all know what we mean by that. So I think it's clear and useful as a shortcut. And what we had was, how do we turn these incredible amount of investment, the competition among LLMs between ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Mistral, and others into tools that can actually be used for education, for agriculture, for medicine. How do we turn them into concrete use cases that can actually improve the life of especially the ones who are less connected or not connected yet, the hundreds of millions of people who can actually benefit from AI with a smartphone. So how do we do that, especially in Africa, but not only in Africa? The Indians also will hold a summit soon, and that's one of the main angles of their own AI summit. Will be in February in Delhi, but also AI and children, and a couple of other issues, including safety, obviously with presence of Yoshua Bengio, who's the foremost expert of AI safety. That's something that we need to keep in mind. So, in a nutshell, and I'll stop here and give the floor to Mark. What we tried to do was to apply our method, which is what we call the multi-actor method. We're not multilateral because there are governments here, but it's not a governmental conference or summit or forum. It's a multi-actor forum. You will see people from development agencies, you will see people from the private sector, you will see people from NGOs, foundations, academia, and other categories of people getting together in coalitions to try and make this world a slightly better place. We're very modest in our assessment of our impact, but we do think we have impact, not just by the convening that is happening every year, but also by the work that we do throughout the year. Our policy department is working throughout the year on many of these issues, and the forum, the moment of the forum is a way to not just showcase that, but make a push by gathering the different actors for action. And I don't want to be too long, but of course I'm happy to answer any questions, especially on the impact that we're trying to have and the impact that I think we have. With that, I'll leave it to Mark.
Thanks, Justin. Thank you. Thank you. A battle is raging everywhere around the world right now between information and misinformation. And over the last 2 days here in Paris, I believe we've made real progress on the side of information. And I want to begin by thanking Justin and everyone at the Paris Peace Forum for providing the place, the convening power, and the atmosphere. He's talked about this, the multi-actor atmosphere to make that progress possible. And I want to thank the representatives of these two museums for providing a beautiful space, space, very good for networking, both for set-piece events, but for bilateral meetings and networking. It's been really a special place. And you know, the environment, particularly such a beautiful and kind of resonant environment, makes a big difference to these processes. So thank you all, but particularly to the forum. It's a unique thing, actually. Here we are, 7 years in or whatever it is, and you get some of the most important and powerful people in the world coming together in exactly the right spirit when the stars align to make real progress. So I'm the co-chair of IFPIM. This is this global fund to support and sustain and build a future for independent journalism in much of the world. We don't do absolutely all of the world, but across country to country. And Nishant Lalwani, the chief executive of IFPIM, is next to me in case you have any difficult questions. But seriously, let me just quickly give you a sense of what happened. I mean, you've heard about this already, the high-level conference on information and integrity. We were at IFPIM were one of the organisers of that, alongside the Forum for Information and Democracy. Some very big figures: President Macron of France, 4 other heads of state and government, President Mahama of Ghana, President Sandu of Moldova, Prime Minister Pashinyan, and Prime Minister Rama. These 5 leaders, made really powerful and passionate calls for support from the people convened here, and more broadly the world, to join forces in the battle for facts and for information integrity. And I'm very grateful for their global leadership. President Sandu said yesterday about the work that this organisation, IFPIM, has been doing in Moldova, that IFPIM is not just strengthening journalism, but strengthening democracy. And that points to the link between citizens having access to news they can trust, so that they can make their own minds about what they think based on the facts. The connection between that and the fundamental elements of a democratic society. Moreover, yesterday, 29 countries adopted the Paris Declaration on Multilateral Action for Information Integrity and Independent Media. And this document is available. You can read it. We believe that a number of extra countries are going to sign it over the coming hours and days. So I suspect that number is going to get into the 30s. We'll see. This is the first time so many countries have signed up to a broad declaration, which absolutely commits the signatories and their countries to start treating access to reliable information and independent journalism as public goods, civically and culturally and constitutionally important resources that require sustained public support alongside, of course, private sector innovation. They also, in the statement, emphasise the need for more collective action, and in particular, they support the work of this fund, the International Fund for Public Interest Media, as it were, the financial arm of this coalition, so that significant investments are being made in information at a time when actually very substantial amount of money is going into manipulating information and creating mis and disinformation. Next, the Republic of France announced a renewed financial support for IFPIM and committed an initial €10 million contribution towards the next strategic phase of the fund. IFPIM is 3 years old, and we've already provided financial support to 120 media outlets in 30 countries, pretty much in every part of the world. But that new grant from France is going to help us take IFPIM onto the next stage. We've got a goal of about 130 million euros for the next stage, as we have a model of how we give money, how we assess its success, and how we also hold our grantees to account. I mean, our money's not forever. It's to build something which in the end can be independent. And that 10 million will really help us. Ghana announced yesterday their financial support and became the very first, we're very proud to say, the first African country to contribute financially to the fund. 10 donors have now already pledged support to scale up the fund, including Spain, Luxembourg and Switzerland, who also announced their financial backing yesterday. As I say, we continue to work, and we'll be talking to many of the people who've been here to mobilise towards that 130 million euro target over the next 3 years. My co-chair, Maria Reza, gave a very eloquent and moving speech yesterday in our conference about what's at stake. And what's at stake and what's at risk is our shared reality. In other words, the sense that, we human beings, live in one reality, and it's so important with issues like climate change that we take that reality seriously. And you might say, why on earth do we have to defend the idea of a shared reality? We do. We know the reasons, but we do. And I want to end where I began, which is just saying, this for us, for IFPIM, has been a really energizing and positive experience. And I want to thank not just the organisers, but also the fellow delegates. We've really felt supported and emboldened by the real response we've had here. So thank you.
Thank you. As you know, the Musée de l'Homme, where a part of the Paris Peace Forum takes place, is very pleased to be associated to the Paris Peace Forum. It is really meaningful to us to be part of it because we share the same values. As you may know, the Musée de l'Homme, Museum of Humanity in English, is a site under the supervision of the National Museum of Natural History. These two entities, the Paris Peace Forum and the museum, may seem to belong to very different worlds. One dedicated to science, biodiversity, heritage, and the other one to diplomacy and global governance. But, as I said, we both share common mission, building a more sustainable and peaceful future for humanity. Here at the Musée de l'Homme, scientists study humanity in all its diversity, past and present, to understand the human evolution and how human actions affect the planet. This knowledge is essential to address today's global challenges: climate change, biodiversity loss, and environmental degradation. We have a key role in the dissemination of this essential knowledge today. On the other hand, the Paris Peace Forum provides a platform where government, NGOs, researchers, citizens come together to find cooperative solutions to these same global problems. By collaborating together, the museum and the forum highlight how science and diplomacy must work hand in hand. Scientific evidence gives the credibility and urgency to political decisions, while international dialogue ensures that this knowledge is turned into a concrete action.
Thank you so much.
Almost finished.
Sorry, I didn't see the other page. I'm sorry.
Now, just to say that again, together we share really common values of solidarity, mutual aid and dialogue among population and on a global scale. In this way, our institutions remind us that peace is not only the absence of war, it's also the presence of harmony between people, societies, and the nature itself. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good afternoon. When you aim at building peace, you always start by gathering people and have them talk to each other. And this is actually exactly the purpose of this museum's recent renovation, to bring all kind of sailors and all kind of sea-related people together and have them share their culture, their knowledge, their concerns, not only among themselves, but to anyone interested, and basically all our visitors. That is the reason why we have these gigantic spaces added to the exhibition space itself, to welcome and gather people who want to meet each other and to act together. So the French Maritime Museum teams are very proud that the Paris Peace Forum chose them to host this year's event, as well as our neighbor. We are very thankful as well to be able to witness all that has been said these last 2 days. And we are humbled to realize that the message we deliver every day to our visitors about the ocean being a significant part of all contemporary challenges, biodiversity, climate, security, trade, science, communication, freedom, migrations, and I could go on, is an opinion that seems to be well shared among the Paris Peace Forum participants. So this central role of maritime affairs in contemporary issues is all what the museum's collections are about, through art and through techniques, here in Paris and in 4 other places in France. We enlighten today's issues with centuries-old maritime heritage, as in our current exhibition on Magellan's epic journey. And so we really thankful to the Peace Forum to have chosen this place to host.
Thank you so much, all 4. I guess now we'll open to questions. Si vous avez des questions en français, if you have questions in English.
If you have questions in French or English.
In both languages, and so feel free to ask in whichever you'd like. All of our speakers here have headsets, so even if they don't understand, they will be able to get it in their ears. Go ahead.
Okay.
Best to use the microphone for the recording. Yeah.
Okay, I will try. Anastasia Lutchenko, Monaco Press Club. I have the cross-panel question for everyone. If you had to describe this edition of the Paris Peace Forum in one word, what would it be and why? Just one word. Juste un mot. Oui, mission de Paris. Oui. Just one
Yes,
word.
just a
And
word, please.
Yes.
Boring word, but my word would be productive.
Why?
Because we came and took part in it and are leaving with practical things. Much more support, a declaration from many, many countries, some endorsements from some important world leaders from across the world, and significant either actual already commitments to actual amounts of money or strong commitments to fund us in the future. And I sort of feel that what happened is the Paris Peace Forum's always been a very good venue for us. We were, essentially announced at our formation a few years ago, but it really felt like this was a forum where it got real. People started putting their signatures on bits of paper. They started actually writing checks in earnest as well. So a really, really productive forum for us.
Thank you.
My word would be commitment, because we've been preparing this for months along with the Paris Peace Forum.
And you succeeded.
And we actually felt the commitment of every single person we shared thoughts with. We prepared that. We were in the very practical field, of course, but even in that field, we felt everybody so committed and feeling so strongly the sense of what they were doing, that my word would be commitment.
Thank you.
Dialogue. I think that what you said on the multi-actor forum is very interesting, and I think that really the dialogue is in the middle of everything, and we can really be better and live in a better world if we can continue to dialogue together. That's my word.
Tiredness, I guess. I'm very tired. I'm really looking forward to tonight. No, I would say impact. For pretty much the same reasons that Mark outlined. That is, we could have created a conference, right? We could have done a geopolitical conference. It's fascinating. I love it. I've done it pretty much all my life. So we would have, great panels on Russia, Ukraine, on Middle East, on China, US, et cetera, et cetera. Just talking about it, right? And having great speakers, the ones that write in foreign affairs or as well. But that's not the path we chose. With the path we chose, we do have sessions on some of these issues, but what we try to do is always have an element of impact, in the sense that it's built around either a coalition, and Mark explained the reasons why it's not just about convening people, it's also about having them decide for action, or converging on policy views, on norms. It's very hard to give you KPIs, for example. I can give you numbers. We had more than 80 sessions. There were 450 or 500 speakers. You can give these numbers, but they're not output. They're just input, right? And so it's very difficult to point to very concrete things. Mark can point to the 10 million plus the other funders plus the commitments. But most generally, it's about policy convergence. It's about crystallizing a consensus around a shared assessment. It's really important. You look at AI and children, for example. The coalition that we built, which has UNICEF, UNESCO, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, government of France, Kenya, and 12 others, I think, plus neuroscientists and CTOs, sharing the same assessment on what the world of AI creates as an environment for the brain development of children, how anthropomorphism of AI, for example, is a serious question. We should ask that question now that it's being developed. That has real value. It's hard. Once again, it's hard to turn that into a KPI. But the fact that we're gathering these people, not just now, but regularly on a regular basis throughout the year, that really has value, because it's not just dialogue. Dialogue is very important, but it's not just dialogue. It's also converging on a shared assessment and pre-norms. I'm not saying norms, because norms are made by legitimate institutions like jurisdictions or the UN or the EU or others, but it's sort of pre-norms. It's when these ideas are formed, when the good practices are exchanged, when views converge, and that's the sort of work that we're doing. So we're not at the academic on the academic side. We're not at the policy decision side. We're in between. We are at the moment where these ideas form and converge, and that's what we're trying to do, especially for emerging issues or for issues that are sort of the wicked problems of this world. Complex issues need complex solutions, and the forum is a bit complex, honestly. So for journalists, for example, I'm sure it's not very easy to write about the forum, because it's not a peace forum in the sense that we don't take Mr. Putin and Mr. Zelensky by the hand and tell them to make peace, because we can't. I'd love to do that, but we can't. So we do other things that are useful, and it's not a conference. It's not an academic conference. It's not a symposium. It's not a diplomatic summit either. We have heads of state, but we don't have only heads of state. It's something in between, which is in this really difficult spot of trying to have complex solutions for complex problems. And so we're trying to do that for critical minerals, for information integrity, for climate overshoot, for AI and children, AI and development, etc., etc. So impact, in one word.
Thank you so much. And my word for you, chapeau.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see questions.
Bravo.
I think I saw questions here. All right. Well, we'll take maybe 3 questions and then hand them out between the people here. So,
okay.
Go ahead.
First, I want to thank you for the invitation. It was a truly enriching, enterprising forum. But as a French and moreover an independent content creator about politics and geopolitics, I feel compelled to ask you a few questions, Mr. Weissy. During the forum, AI played a major role in the debate. You said about Mr. AI, OpenAI, many directors of the forum, in order to raise the level of debate and bring a new perspective, felt that it would have been better to invite technocritical voice rather than just cautious one, and we know they have this voice in French.
Should we do one by one, or
very quickly. So, have you read what Yoshua Bengio writes about AI? He's the guy. I think, interestingly, he's the guy who just got to more than 1 million quotation on Google Scholar. So he's a very, very quoted guy, and he's not tender for AI. He is pointing at the dangers of AI constantly, and even him sitting in the same panel as Microsoft and governments, etc., was an interesting thing. So no, I think I sort of reject the charge in the sense that I think we did have other voices, especially on that question of AI safety, or on the fact that, for example, too much money is spent on perfecting huge LLMs that are extremely hungry in terms of energy, etc., and not enough on use cases and what you can actually do with AI. So yeah, I think we have a pretty good balance. But yeah, we can always add other voices and other opinions. I think it's worth doing.
Good. I'm very satisfied of the answer. And my second question is how to explain the absence of a conference on the situation in Sudan.
That's a big regret. I wish you hadn't asked the question, because we did it last year and the year before on Sudan. Last year with Mo Ibrahim and a couple of others on Sudan. We pride ourselves on on paying attention to the forgotten conflicts, and that is one. This year it was on the Great Lakes. Very often DRC is forgotten, and it's not much talked about in the media, especially the French, including the French media, not especially, including the French media. There are things. Some journalists are doing a good work on that, but it's true that it gets about a tenth of the attention given to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, for good reasons, perhaps, but at least there are no good reasons for forgetting these conflicts, or Yemen, for example. Sudan, we started planning one, and then we didn't have a really good angle on the Sudanese, and so it's a regret we have that we didn't have anything on Sudan. But you're right to point it out. It's something that is close to our heart. The deputy director, who's not here, but Fabienne Nara has been working on that conflict in particular for many years, and so, well, on that region for many years, and we wish we had.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I think I saw a question over here first, and then I saw a number of questions over here. So maybe we'll start there.
Bonjour, je suis ukrainienne. Je m'appelle Oksana.
Good afternoon, I am Ukrainian. My name is Oksana. I am an expert on politics and I work here in France. I am a refugee, as you may well know already. As it's been stated, Ukraine fights for peace nowadays. In Ukraine, we say that we do not win a war, we win peace. Ukrainians do not win the war, they're trying to win and earn their peace. And it's something that has been lacking, in my opinion. And it's to heard about international courts and international justice. If I may say so, on behalf of other Ukrainians, I wish to hear you talk about such topics. Because if we talk about peace ever happening, that is of the essence. And what do you want to tell to Ukrainian people? Because I will be covering the topic in Ukraine on TV, and I'm sure they're eagerly waiting for your answers. What do you want me to tell them?
Saint Augustin disait, il y a deux amis, la justice et la paix.
St. Augustine used to say that there are two enemies, both justice and peace. And I think you've been mentioning a very important point. If we want a sustainable peace, I was mentioning the conflict in Palestine earlier, well, it's not possible to build peace on the basis of a ceasefire. First and foremost, it's important to stop the killings, stop starvation. But of course, it's important to take into account the dreams and aspirations of the people. We need to talk about justice, transitional justice, of course, and reparations. All of these topics are very important. I think what the panel was really important on Ukraine may not have been the one directly on Ukraine, may have been the one on Europe with the Triangle of Weimar. Because, in my opinion, a large share of basically, the answer to your question is that Europe can do to Ukraine is what it can do for itself. So, really, the question is, can Europe replace the United States? To which extent can Europe replace the United States? I think you get my point. There are some things Europe cannot do to help Ukraine, like intelligence, for instance.
En termes de soutien,
in terms of support in certain critical areas, Europe cannot replace the US. However, the panel on the Triangle of Weimar with Polish and German speakers mattered a lot, in my opinion. I think there was a key message sent there. And I think in Europe we have been trying, during the forum, we have been trying to work on that. I know there was also a project on Ukrainian-based solutions. And more broadly, there was a panel on strengthening international humanitarian law with Ms. Poliarich, president of the Red Cross, with Mr. Barrot and others, so French and Spanish foreign affairs ministers. In this increasingly conflicted world, with more than 11 wars and 61 conflicts, humanitarian work and humanitarian law, matter a lot. Bakeries, hospitals, schools have been bombarded. So what we've been trying to do is to help Ukraine directly, strengthen European capabilities, and strengthening international humanitarian law.
Juste pour info, parce que je viens d'avoir l'info.
Just for information, I've just been given the answer because we were asked about Sudan. I've been told there will be 1 minute of silence in solidarity with Sudan, and that was done on stage B just a few minutes ago, the minute of silence. Next question.
From you first, and then from there, and then further along. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hello. First of all, I would like to thank you very much for taking time to answer my question. My name is Fabiola. I'm a content creator on TikTok where I share reflection inspired by the book I read, as well as topics related to politics and social sciences in general. My question comes from the fact that the Paris Peace Forum had chosen to invite content creators alongside traditional media outlets. In 2025, more than ever, social media platforms have become a central space for information and influence in many ways, even a diplomatic and geopolitical tool. In that context, how do you view the role of social media and content creators in shaping the global public debate today? Do you think they should be recognized as legitimate media and geopolitical actors in their own right? Thank you.
And maybe that's one for at least Justin and Sir Mark.
Mark, I'd love to hear Mark.
And obviously, if the two museum representatives also have any thoughts.
I mean, I can't talk obviously because Justin and others are involved in what gets recognised and not recognised at the Peace Forum, but I absolutely accept that influencers and contributors of content who are outside conventional media, legacy media titles. And who are using other means or traditional means, writing pieces, but in the context of, I don't know, a Substack account or whatever, so that they, although the way they're using media is fairly conventional, they're doing it as sole traders and trying to reach audiences and build a business in a way on their own, are completely legitimate. I'm one of the legacy media players who thinks that the fact that this is democratized and that people can make content, whether it's text or video, on devices which billions of people have, is a good thing, not a bad thing. And I think in many discussions it would be really useful if they were involved. Definitely. I mean, your point is right. I mean, as you know, the irony is that legacy media brands like CNN are themselves very extensively. We regularly will get as much as 30, 40, 50 million views for videos which were essentially made within CNN and within the CNN brand on TikTok or YouTube and so on. Now that happens, frankly, almost every day. Very, very large audiences. And I think when we think about public policy about media, again, I think it's a dimension. And it's very easy and wrong to assume that it's like conventional media, old-fashioned media is good, and everything that happens beyond that in the internet is bad and dangerous. We think there are dangers and problems with some of the content that's made on the internet, but there's some great work being done as well. So I'm pretty sympathetic with what you said.
Thank you.
I don't know if others had anything to add.
Yeah, I will use the fact that Mark was pretty open and in his answer to say that I'm conflicted. To be honest, that is, on one hand, I encouraged Evan and his great communication team to invite content creators and others, and I think it's really important. I'm very enthusiastic about that, etc. On the other hand, we know that we live in a very, very special age in terms of information, where the legacy media, it's no offense to Mark, I think the statistic is that the average CNN viewer is older than 60, I don't know.
Well, firstly, I'm over 60 and I don't use it. But more generally, I think that I would say the average user.
Yeah.
That's a statistic about domestic US
Oh,
cable
TV, right.
If you look at the 140 million people who come to CNN.com, or the people who watch CNN content on YouTube or TikTok, you find much broader range.
Right, which is an illustration of your point.
But the basic point is true, that a sort of sit down in the sofa and watch a television program is definitely, so sitting down and watching the evening news, the 10 o'clock news on the BBC, or Tagesschau on ARD, or whatever, that is increasingly a pattern of consumption which goes with older audiences, definitely. And I think the underlying point, which is that young people are getting their media in much more diverse ways, is a fundamental fact of life. And we launched a major new digital product 2 days ago, in part looking specifically to break out of the box of, if you like, the legacy platforms, and to reach out and find new audiences. So I think it's a really live issue.
So, and it's interesting because it illustrates your point that you're diversifying. But my point is was not to do a sneak attack on CNN, obviously. Of course not. It was more to say that on the one hand, I'm very enthusiastic, open, and I'm also a consumer of the content that these content producers. On the other hand, I was saying we live in an age where the traditional guardians of truth, or the if you'd like, the traditional regime of truth, is being challenged like few times in history. Maybe the invention of the printing press, or things like that. And so that's the magnitude of the challenge to information that we have today. And I know it contributes to some of the disorders of the world. And so I'm not saying that these content creators are bad or good. I'm saying that we live in this age, and so we should be very careful. And after all, that's the whole point of IFPIM, is to encourage the production of high-quality media with standards, with journalism standards, etc., etc. And so we should not escape that debate that the democratization of information, that every citizen can be a journalist, also should be reconciled with the constraints of providing good quality and true content, right? So that's why I was saying I'm sorry, it was more for the sake of discussion than anything, but it's true that there is a dilemma that we should be discussing. It's really important because it has real effects on people's lives, not only in our societies but elsewhere as well.
No, I agree with all of that. And one last point from me, sorry, is just to say, and the other point obviously is in the world of like traditional electronic media of, I don't know, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, where you have regulated providers, actually, with quality control and all the rest of it, the downside is you get less choice. People have got fewer choices, and you get famously, not enough diversity of voices and attitudes. The upside is high levels of quality control. We've now got much greater choice and diversity of voices. I think the thing that we maybe lack now is thinking about how do you equip users, citizens, to be more discriminatory, because there are fewer guardrails that and trying to figure out whether something's true or not is something you've actually got to think about hard, rather than just switching it on and thinking it's going to be fine. So anyway.
So we're turning this press conference into a panel.
I feel like you wanted to have a follow-up comment, and then we'll pass it over.
I totally understand your concern about the possible risks and excesses, but since the platform are really shaping public opinion on a massive scale, do you think the solution lies more in regulation or in collaboration and education between institutions and content creators?
Who wants to take that?
Well, there's the closing ceremony in like 20 minutes, so I'm going to pass on this one. But it's a really interesting one, and we should have we should have had a panel on that. Really, it's very important. It's very, very important for democracy, for even for COVID and all these. I mean, and the fact that information, and that's the premise of IFPIM and the work we do on that, is that information. We are social animals as a species, and information should not be treated as I don't know, entertainment or something that is just not central to our material life. It's central to a material and social life, and so we should be very serious about it because it has political implications. And sorry if we don't go further, but it's a really important one. Thank you for the question.
You're welcome.
Thanks. I don't know if we have time for one more question, and I know that we have quite a few hands up.
So let's take all the questions.
Let's take all the questions together. Starting with yourself, I think I saw your hand first, and your hand, then your hand, then yours.
Not to continue the discussion, but if there were more jobs for young journalists, then maybe they'd get fact-checked, and also then there'd be a diversity of voices. Fiona Zublin from DevX, which I guess falls into the gap between legacy and new media. I am curious about the declaration on support for independent media and whether the debate included thoughts about regulation on AI, given the threat of the ability to create sort of deep fakes as a threat to the ability to trust the media that we see. And beyond that, what you think about that. Does there need to be regulation in that area, and where should the liability lie?
Go ahead.
I think I might ask Nishan to answer.
Okay.
It's a real focus for us. But.
Yes, I mean, the short answer is that in our session yesterday, regulation on AI was discussed extensively, and broadly there was very strong agreement that there needs to be regulation. And if you ask many of the tech companies, they will say the same thing, that there needs to be regulation. On a panel I was moderating earlier, the ambassador from Luxembourg, he pointed out that there are still political capacity and technical gaps in the abilities of governments to do that, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to address that urgently. So in my sense, not just at this forum, but at the previous one, there's been broad consensus that regulation is absolutely vital. And I'm hearing that not just from AI companies, but from policymakers as well.
And do you think that that regulation will lead to there being less of a need for liability if that if those tools are used for ill purposes?
I mean, I think that really depends on the regulation. I think we haven't got best-in-class regulation that is fully being implemented yet. And I think we need that to happen for that liability question to be tested.
We should take several questions.
Yeah, I think let's take these three questions together and then have a closing.
I would rather have mine separate.
Okay, sure. Well, let's take then from Sir and then.
Merci. Je crois que les questions étaient au féminin aussi.
Thank you. I see there are a lot of women asking questions now. Good afternoon, one and all. I'm Boudouin Aubert, and I work for Chad 24, and I'm television. I'm from Chad, and I think it was excellent work that we've had here over these last 2 days. There was a lot of work, and it was very good to see what good timing it was. Thank you for being so punctual. We can congratulate you on that. And the president of the Cameroon, Paul Biya, said at a UN meeting that all heads of states are rabbit eaters. Are peace eaters. And when you look at the conflicts in Africa with Boko Haram and others, I think that the discussions we have had here should help bring peace to the countries where there's conflict. Now, this is the 8th forum. And we know that there are a number of resolutions, decisions made in the past. Do you think that people who come to the Paris Peace Forum and give their speeches here, which are very good, then spread the message with the recommendations and the concerns expressed? Is there real impact in these different countries? No, I think that's a question for Justin. Thank you very much for your question. Yes, so it's good to have a man asking a question. And it's very difficult to answer this question because it obviously depends on the situation. Now, when you have an international meeting, you often see people say one thing and then do something else once they get back home. But what we're trying to do is to get people around the table, and they're not necessarily heads of state. Often people say, well, you didn't get the head of state here, but I would prefer to have a minister or the chief of staff or the director of European affairs who would be the one actually managing the work, having the discussions with their counterparts, and do it in a political way so that we can have real impact. And often the grand declarations that we can make for peace and so on are forgotten once we get back home. So I don't really have an answer to that. Sometimes the impact is not there. Sometimes it's just wonderful words, but we try and avoid that insofar as we can. But we provide you with the platform, the possibility for doing work, but we mustn't underestimate the role of language. There are commitments that are made here, and when you have civil society behind, checking on things and doing naming and shaming, then that can sometimes have a real effect too.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Just one question about collective action. All over the world, young peace leaders are more and more under pressure. Are you going to launch new special initiatives for support youth organizations and youth energies in your forum? Thank you.
We had a few things on sports a couple of years ago. One question that we often have for these in these press conferences is there are too many things at the forum. Why don't you focus on just 2 or 3, etc. And then another type of question is, why don't you address this or this question? So we're always sort of conflicted between having a big tent and dealing with many questions on the one hand, and being focused on the other. And sometimes we've had, especially in the Space for Solutions, we've had a couple of things about sports, a couple of projects that were really good, and we believe in sports as a way to put it briefly, to do good in many social situations, development situations, etc. We don't have any plans for right now, but we're very open to it in the future.
I think we do really have to go, but if you have a very quick
question is quick. It's a little long too. It's addressed to Sir Mark Thompson, the International Fund for Public Interest. Can you hear me? Yes. Media. Is it too little, too late? Because the drop on overseas development aid is significant, as we've witnessed. And now, what about the male-dominated podcast industry in the U.S. that has helped elect far-right politicians, which created the mess we are in right now? How many millions do they receive in funding? And plus the brand endorsements that they carry, right? We're talking about Joe Rogan and all the clerks and the young men who are producing these podcasts, right? They are funded by the extreme right groups, right? So, and that is in millions of dollars. So what is the International Fund for Public Interest Media hopes to accomplish, and how come this public interest media supports only the developing world? There are tons of people struggling independent media in the developed world. Where is the funding for this, and will the International Fund address also?
So firstly, the scale of the need at the highest level, i.e. to support good quality media and reliable information around the planet, is an enormous one. And if PIM has decided that we should focus on developing countries predominantly and other kind of, if you like, marginal societies, I don't think we rule out an extension of a scope later on, but straightforwardly, the United States is also the country with by far the greatest philanthropic investment in this area. There are multiple funds and multiple activities attempting to ensure plurality of quality journalism, where the biggest gaps are actually at the local and regional level. Point one. Point two, I want to say in the end, certainly kind of male-dominated digital media, and within that male-dominated podcasting is a reality of the current media landscape in the US. I don't think most of those people, by the way, are getting sort of government funds, the US government funds, and neither the federal government nor the states fund media significantly at all.
Political interest groups.
Well, that's done in the open market, and as you say, probably done in many cases for political effect. I think that basically as a separate topic. One thing I can say about IFPIM, by the way, I think we have a majority female a board of IFPIM. 55% of the grants we've given so far, 120 grants in 30 different countries, 55% have gone to journalistic enterprises which are either led by women or substantially composed of women, or both. So we are both in terms of IFPIM itself. It's a very small organisation, about 30 people in total around the world. But also in terms of our grantees, we're trying very hard to make sure that we've got a good gender mix. Crucially, both the board and the grantees are also intended to be truly global in character, people from the whole world, and we're trying to. But so far, the developed world we haven't touched on. We have some tens of millions of dollars so far to deal already with a vast amount of humanity, if we can. We're trying to scale our funding and increase our scope.
We really do have to close now, also because they're cutting off our feed because they need it for another session, the closing session. So thank you all so much. Pour toutes celles et tous ceux, for anyone who wasn't able to ask a question, qui n'a pas pu poser une question, vous pouvez nous contacter.
If you weren't able to ask a question, you can send us a message to media@parispeaceforum.org.
And we'll be happy to get back in touch with you.